Impossible. Run the test again, Nathan Reed demanded, his billionaire authority unable to mask the tremor in his voice. The doctor's words hung in the air like a physical weight. There is zero genetic relation between you and either twin. How could the boys he'd known as his nephews for 12 years, the children of his beloved sister, share no blood with him? More shocking still was the partial DNA match to the quiet, dignified woman who'd been cleaning his floors for the past 3 months. Mr. Reed, the results are conclusive, the specialist continued. These children are biologically related to your housekeeper, Elena Voss. The twins, Oliver pale from his hospital bed, Theo standing protectively beside him, stared at the woman they'd come to trust. Elena's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the chair, her world tilting on its axis. I was told I couldn't have children, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. How is this possible? Have you ever wondered if the family you thought you knew was built on an unseen mistake? What would you do if you discovered that your entire identity, your very DNA, connected you to someone unexpected? And what if this revelation came just as the clock was ticking down on the time you had left? Welcome back to Mr. Ross' Story Trail, where true life stories reveal the extraordinary moments that change lives forever. For new viewers joining us today, you're about to witness one of the most remarkable family discoveries I've ever shared on this channel. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story of a billionaire CEO, his terminal diagnosis, and the shocking truth about the twins he thought were his nephews, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Your support allows me to continue bringing these powerful real-life stories that teach us about resilience, forgiveness, and unexpected second chances. I promise you'll want to stick around for every twist in this journey, a journey that proves sometimes the family we're meant to have isn't the one we're born into, but the one we find when we need it most. When Nathan Reed received his terminal diagnosis, he made a decision to reconnect with his nephews after years of emotional distance. He never imagined that hiring a new housekeeper, a woman mourning her own shattered dreams of motherhood, would lead to a discovery that would redefine everything he thought he knew about family. This story challenges us to consider, what truly makes a family? Is it blood and DNA, or is it the bonds we form through love, sacrifice, and shared experience? As Nathan's time runs short, he'll face the ultimate question: can a man who spent his life building wealth instead of relationships create a legacy that truly matters? And can Elena, a woman who believed she would never know the joy of motherhood, embrace a miracle that arrives in the most unexpected way? Join me as we witness how sometimes the most devastating news can lead to the greatest blessings, and how family can find you even when you've stopped looking. Nathan Reed stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office on the 57th floor, watching the Boston skyline glitter against the darkening evening sky. At 42, he was at the pinnacle of his career, founder and CEO of Reed Technologies, an AI powerhouse valued at over $11 billion. The Wall Street Journal had recently called him the most influential tech visionary of his generation. But influence and vision couldn't fill the emptiness of his penthouse when he returned each night. His assistant Olivia knocked gently before entering his office. The board members are waiting in the conference room, Mr. Reed. Tell them I'll be 5 minutes, Nathan replied without turning from the window. Also, Westridge Academy called again about the twins. They need your decision about the summer program by tomorrow. Nathan nodded absently. His nephews, Oliver and Theodore, 12 years old now and practically strangers to him. Olivia hesitated at the door. Will you be attending their spring recital this weekend? Schedule it, Nathan said automatically, then caught himself. No, wait. I'll be in Tokyo for the merger. Send appropriate gifts and my regrets. When Olivia left, Nathan's gaze fell on the lone personal item in his immaculate office, a photo of his sister with her husband and the twins as toddlers. 8 years had passed since the private plane crash that took both parents. 8 years of Nathan delegating his guardianship to elite boarding schools and hired caretakers while he built his empire. The company had become his sanctuary and prison. 16-hour workdays, meals delivered to his desk, a personal assistant who managed his life down to scheduling haircuts and selecting birthday gifts for business associates. His closest relationships were with his executive team, and even they knew only the carefully constructed public version of Nathan Reed. At night, he would sometimes find himself standing in his massive empty home, surrounded by priceless art he barely noticed and designer furniture no one ever sat on. Success had given him everything and nothing at all. His phone buzzed, a reminder of his quarterly medical checkup tomorrow morning. A nuisance, but his board insisted on regular health monitoring for their irreplaceable CEO. Nathan dismissed the notification and straightened his tie, preparing to dazzle the board with his latest vision for expanding the company's reach. No one at Reed Technologies would have guessed that by this time tomorrow, their invincible leader would have his world completely shattered. I recommend you sit down for this, Mr. Reed. Dr. Patel's voice was gentle but firm. Something in her tone made Nathan comply without argument, lowering himself into the chair across from her desk. Your blood work showed significant abnormalities. We ran additional tests, and I'm afraid the results confirm an aggressive form of leukemia. Nathan stared at her, waiting for more information, processing her words like data in a business report. Prognosis? Dr. Patel's expression softened with compassion. 6 months, perhaps 8 with aggressive treatment. I'm very sorry, Mr. Reed. Treatment options? He asked, his voice steadier than he felt. We can begin immediately with an experimental protocol. It's showing promising results, but I need to be clear, this is not likely to be curative in your case. We would be extending time and managing symptoms. Nathan nodded, his mind already calculating, restructuring, planning, as if this were simply another business problem to solve. He left the hospital with a folder of information, a schedule of appointments, and the weight of mortality pressing down on his shoulders for the first time in his life. That evening, alone in his penthouse, the carefully constructed walls began to crumble. 6 months. What had he done with his life that truly mattered? His company would continue without him. His wealth would be distributed according to his meticulously crafted will. But what legacy was he really leaving? He walked to the bar and poured himself a rare indulgence, an aged scotch he'd been saving for a special occasion. Bitter irony that his death sentence qualified. As the liquor burned down his throat, Nathan's eyes fell on his sister's photograph again. She had been the compassionate one, the one who connected with people, while he built systems and empires. She had created a family filled with love, while he had created algorithms and profit margins. Her final words to him haunted him now. They'll need you one day, Nathan. Promise me you'll be there for them. He had failed her, failed the boys. In his relentless pursuit of success, he had neglected the only family he had left. Nathan set down his glass and walked to the window. Outside, millions of lights twinkled, each representing lives being lived, families gathering around dinner tables, memories being made, time that he had squandered. For the first time since receiving his diagnosis, Nathan Reed allowed himself to feel the full weight of regret. And as tears slid silently down his face, he made a decision that would change not only the remaining months of his life, but the lives of everyone connected to him. The headmaster of Westridge Academy was visibly flustered by Nathan's unannounced arrival. Mr. Reed, had we known you were coming, we would have prepared the boys. I preferred not to give advance notice, Nathan replied, scanning the prestigious campus with new eyes. The manicured lawns and ivy-covered buildings suddenly seemed cold and institutional rather than impressive. Of course, the twins are in advanced mathematics at the moment. Shall I have them brought to my office? No, I'll wait until their class finishes. 40 minutes later, Oliver and Theodore stood before him in the headmaster's office, identical in their school uniforms, but distinctly different in their demeanor. Oliver clutched a book to his chest like a shield, while Theodore stood slightly in front of his brother, chin raised in subtle defiance. Uncle Nathan, Theodore, Theo, acknowledged with a formality that made Nathan wince internally. Is something wrong? Nothing's wrong, Nathan assured them quickly. I've made a decision. You'll be coming home with me today. The twins exchanged a quick glance. For how long? Oliver asked quietly. Permanently. I've arranged for your enrollment at Westlake Academy near my estate. You'll be day students starting next week. The headmaster cleared his throat. Mr. Reed, this is quite sudden. The boys are thriving here, and mid-semester transfers can be... The arrangements are final. Nathan cut him off. Please have their belongings packed immediately. Later, as his driver loaded the twins' modest possessions into the car, Nathan noticed how little personalization their items showed. Standard uniforms, required textbooks, a few books that appeared well-worn from multiple readings. Had they been living as minimally in their emotional lives as they had in their material ones? The drive to Boston was awkwardly silent. Nathan attempted conversation several times, but years of absence had left him a stranger to these boys. Their responses were polite but guarded, revealing nothing of their true thoughts or feelings. When they arrived at the estate, Nathan realized how unprepared the place was for children. His housekeeper, Mrs. Winters, a severe woman in her 60s who had maintained the property during his frequent absences, greeted them with obvious disapproval. I wasn't informed about children coming to stay, Mr. Reed. It was a recent decision. The East Wing guest rooms will need to be converted to bedrooms appropriate for 12-year-old boys. Mrs. Winters' lips thinned. I see. And will there be additional staff hired to manage them? Nathan caught the thinly veiled suggestion that child-minding wasn't in her job description. Yes. In fact, I'll be making several staffing changes. That night, after the twins had retired to their temporary rooms, Nathan called Olivia. I need you to begin a search immediately. The estate needs new staff, particularly a full-time housekeeper who can live on site, someone warm, compassionate, someone good with children. "May I ask what happened to Mrs. Winters?" Olivia inquired carefully. "Mrs. Winters is better suited to maintaining an empty house than a home," Nathan replied. "I need someone who can help create a proper home for the boys in the time I have left." There was a pause before Olivia spoke again. "Sir, is everything all right?" Nathan considered telling her about his diagnosis, but decided against it. For now, only Dr. Patel knew the truth. "Everything is changing, Olivia. Please prioritize this search. I want someone exceptional. Someone who needs this opportunity as much as we need them." As he ended the call, Nathan looked around his vast, empty house. Soon it would be filled with the voices of children he barely knew. He had 6 months, perhaps 8, to become the guardian his sister had trusted him to be, to create a home where the twins would feel secure after he was gone. Tomorrow he would begin treatment. Tomorrow he would start the fight for whatever time he had left. But tonight, he allowed himself to feel the weight of his regrets and the fragile hope that perhaps it wasn't too late to build something meaningful from the ruins of his neglect. Elena Voss wiped sweat from her brow as she finished scrubbing the hospital floor. At 38, she had mastered the art of invisibility, moving efficiently through rooms, cleaning around patients and medical staff who rarely acknowledged her presence. 6 years at Boston Memorial Hospital had taught her to blend into the background, a skill that served her well as she processed her private grief. Before becoming part of the hospital's maintenance staff, Elena had been a kindergarten teacher with a small classroom filled with finger paintings and the laughter of 5-year-olds. Her husband, Michael, had been a structural engineer with a promising career. They had met in college, married at 25, and spent their first 5 years enjoying each other's company while establishing their careers. At 30, they decided it was time to start the family they had always planned. 1 year passed, then 2, no pregnancy. "It's normal for it to take time," her doctor had assured her initially. But after 3 years of negative pregnancy tests, Elena and Michael began the grueling journey through fertility testing and treatments. "We found no obvious cause," Dr. Winters explained during one of countless appointments. "This is what we call unexplained infertility." Those 2 words, unexplained infertility, haunted Elena more than a concrete diagnosis might have. There was nothing to fix, no clear obstacle to overcome, just her body mysteriously refusing to create the child she desperately wanted. They tried everything their modest savings could afford. Ovulation tracking, hormone treatments, 3 rounds of intrauterine insemination, each failure carved deeper lines of disappointment into their marriage. "We can try IVF," Dr. Winters suggested eventually. "The success rates are higher, but I need to be honest about the costs." The financial burden was significant, but Elena and Michael agreed it was worth trying. They took out a second mortgage on their small home and scheduled the procedure at Boston Fertility Partners, one of the city's most reputable clinics. Elena remembered every detail of that period. The daily hormone injections she administered herself, the bruises that bloomed across her abdomen, the roller coaster of hope and anxiety. The egg retrieval had been successful, producing 5 viable embryos. The transfer of 2 embryos went smoothly. For 12 days, Elena lived in suspended animation, analyzing every twinge and symptom. When the pregnancy test came back negative, something broke inside her. "We still have 3 frozen embryos," the fertility specialist reminded them. Many couples aren't successful until their 2nd or 3rd transfer. But Michael had grown quiet, distant. The shared dream that had once united them now highlighted the growing gap between them. Financial strain and emotional exhaustion had taken their toll. They tried one more transfer with their remaining embryos. Again, failure. Their marriage limped along for another 8 months before Michael finally spoke the words Elena had begun to fear. "I can't do this anymore," he said one evening, his suitcase already packed by the door. "I want a family, Elena. And it seems like that's not going to happen with you." The cruelty of his words struck her like a physical blow. 10 years of marriage, reduced to her fertility status. "We could adopt," she had suggested desperately. "There are other ways to build a family." But Michael shook his head. "Amanda is pregnant," he said, not meeting her eyes. "It wasn't planned, but I'm going to be a father." Amanda, his 29-year-old colleague. The revelation that he had been unfaithful while she endured fertility treatments was the final heartbreak. 2 weeks later, divorce papers arrived. Elena signed them without contest, too numb to fight for a marriage that had already died. The financial aftermath of Michael's departure was swift and merciless. The second mortgage they had taken for fertility treatments left Elena with monthly payments she couldn't meet on a teacher's salary. Legal fees from the divorce drained what remained of her savings. 6 months after Michael left, Elena received notice that her teaching contract wouldn't be renewed. Budget cuts had eliminated her position. The timing couldn't have been worse. She sold their small house in a depressed market, barely covering the mortgage. Most of their joint possessions went to second-hand stores or donation centers as she downsized to a one-bedroom apartment in a part of town she once would have avoided. Job applications to other schools yielded nothing. The economic downturn had flooded the market with experienced teachers competing for scarce positions. After 3 months of unemployment, her emergency fund was depleted. "You need something temporary while you keep looking for teaching positions," her friend Marta advised over coffee in Elena's sparse apartment. "The hospital where I work needs cleaning staff. It's not glamorous, but the benefits are decent." Elena swallowed her pride and applied. The hospital hired her immediately. Few people wanted the night shift cleaning position. The work was physically demanding and emotionally draining. Every night she cleaned rooms where families received life-changing news, both miraculous and devastating. The maternity ward was the hardest, but Elena volunteered for it anyway, a form of self-imposed exposure therapy. For nearly 5 years, Elena lived a minimalist existence. Her apartment remained sparsely furnished, a mattress on the floor, a single chair, a small table. She sent out teaching applications every few months, but after years of rejections, her hope dimmed. The one luxury she permitted herself was continuing to visit Dr. Winters annually, clinging to the diminishing possibility that something might change, that some new treatment might emerge. At her last appointment, the doctor had gently suggested she consider other paths to fulfillment. "The emotional cost of holding on to this dream may be too high," Dr. Winters said kindly. "You're still young enough to build a different kind of life." Elena had nodded politely, but inside she wondered what that different life could possibly look like. She had wanted to be a mother since she was a child herself. The emptiness of that unfulfilled longing had become her constant companion. Then came the hospital budget cuts. Despite her seniority and perfect attendance record, Elena received 2 weeks' notice and a small severance package. The hospital administrator had seemed genuinely apologetic, but explained that external contractors would be handling cleaning services moving forward. That night, Elena sat on the edge of her bed and calculated her finances. 2 months of rent at most before she would face eviction. Her credit was already damaged from the financial fallout of her divorce. At 38, she was starting over again with fewer options and depleted resilience. "What now?" she whispered to the empty room. The employment agency waiting room was crowded with job seekers, each face bearing its own story of desperation. Elena clutched her folder of references and certificates that seemed increasingly irrelevant. Her number was called, and she followed a brisk woman to a small cubicle. Elena Voss. Previous experience in education and hospital maintenance, the placement coordinator recited, scanning her file. "What kind of position are you seeking now?" "Anything available," Elena replied honestly. "I need to work." The coordinator nodded, unsurprised by her answer. "We have several retail positions starting at minimum wage, a night security job that requires certification and—" She paused, examining a notification that had just appeared on her screen. "This is interesting. A new listing just came in for a live-in housekeeper position. Private estate in Brookline. Exceptional compensation package including full medical benefits and private living quarters." Elena leaned forward. "Live-in?" "Yes. The employer is Nathan Reed, the tech billionaire. His assistant indicates they need someone to start immediately, preferably someone without family obligations who can live on-site full-time." Elena felt a flicker of hope. "I would be very interested in that position." The coordinator looked skeptical. "It's highly competitive. They're looking for someone with extensive household management experience in luxury properties." "I maintained an entire hospital wing to medical-grade cleanliness standards," Elena countered. "I can certainly manage a house no matter how luxurious, and I have no family obligations preventing me from living on site." Something in her determined tone must have resonated with the coordinator, who nodded slowly. "I'll submit your application. Don't get your hopes up, but stranger things have happened." 3 hours later, Elena's phone rang with news that she had secured an interview the next morning at the Reed estate. The coordinator sounded as surprised as Elena felt. Elena spent her remaining cash on a simple navy dress from a consignment shop, the most professional outfit she could afford. She researched Nathan Reed online, learning about his technology empire and reputation as a brilliant but demanding employer. The Reed estate sprawled across 5 acres just outside the city, protected by an ornate iron gate and security cameras. Elena felt distinctly out of place as she approached the imposing entrance, her second-hand dress and worn shoes a stark contrast to the luxury surrounding her. The house manager who greeted her was a stern woman in her 60s who introduced herself as Mrs. Winters. Her assessment of Elena was barely concealed skepticism. "Mr. Reed requires complete discretion," Mrs. Winters explained during the interview. "He values his privacy above all else. The position includes a private suite in the East Wing, full benefits, and twice the standard salary for this type of role." May I ask why the previous housekeeper left? Elena ventured. Mrs. Winter's lips thinned. I am the current housekeeper. Mr. Reed requires additional staff now that his nephews will be residing here. He specifically requested someone good with children. Elena felt a surge of hope. Children. Perhaps this wasn't just about financial survival, but a chance to use her teaching background again. I was a kindergarten teacher for 7 years, she said. I have extensive experience with children. Mrs. Winters made a note but showed no reaction. Why are you interested in this position? She asked. Your background suggests different aspirations. Elena considered a polished answer but opted for honesty. Life hasn't gone according to plan. I need a fresh start, and I'm willing to work extremely hard for it. Their conversation was interrupted when Nathan Reed himself appeared in the doorway. Despite his wealth and power, he looked surprisingly human, tired eyes contradicting his commanding presence. Mrs. Winters, I'll speak with the candidate now, he said. Alone with one of the richest men in America, Elena felt strangely calm. She had nothing left to lose. Tell me, Ms. Voss, Nathan began. Why should I entrust my home and my nephews to someone with no experience in household management? Because I understand what children need beyond clean rooms and folded laundry, Elena replied. I know how to create spaces where they feel secure and valued, and right now, Mr. Reed, I suspect that's what you're really looking for. Something in her straightforward response seemed to surprise him. He studied her for a long moment. When can you start? He asked. Immediately she answered, I have nothing holding me back. Nathan nodded, decision made. Welcome to the Reed estate, Ms. Voss. As she left the mansion with employment papers in hand, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't merely a job offer but a turning point, the beginning of something that would change her life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. 3 days after Elena's hiring, Nathan's private jet landed at Boston Logan International Airport. For the first time in 8 years, his nephews were returning to live with him permanently. The car ride from the airport stretched in uncomfortable silence, broken only by the occasional direction from Nathan's driver. Oliver and Theodore sat side by side in the back seat, identical in appearance but distinct in their demeanor. Oliver clutched a dog-eared fantasy novel, his slender fingers repeatedly tracing the worn spine, a self-soothing gesture that Nathan had never noticed before. Theo, maintained a protective position slightly angled toward his brother, his posture straight and vigilant. The estate has changed since you last visited, Nathan offered, attempting conversation. The gardens have been expanded. We haven't visited in 3 years, Theo pointed out, his voice carefully neutral but the accusation clear. The Christmas when we were 9. Nathan felt the sting of this simple truth. Had it really been that long? He recalled sending gifts, making obligatory video calls on birthdays, but the actual visits had become increasingly infrequent as his business expanded globally. Yes, well, that's going to change now, Nathan said, his usual confidence faltering. Westlake Academy has excellent academic and extracurricular programs, so start Monday. Oliver finally looked up from his book. Why now? He asked quietly. Is something wrong with Westridge? Nothing's wrong with your previous school, Nathan assured them. I simply felt it was time for us to reconnect. The twins exchanged a glance that spoke volumes, the silent communication of children who had learned to rely primarily on each other. We were fine at boarding school, Theo said firmly. Our friends are there. Our teams are there. This decision isn't open for debate, Nathan replied, retreating to the authoritative tone that served him well in boardrooms but felt hollow here. The arrangements are final. As they approached the estate gates, Nathan watched the twins take in the imposing stone walls and manicured grounds. Their expressions revealed nothing, but the slight stiffening of their shoulders told him everything. This wasn't home to them. It was merely another assigned location, another place where adults had decided they should be. Mrs. Winters greeted them at the entrance, her expression pinched with disapproval as she eyed the boys' casual travel clothes and backpacks. Your rooms are prepared in the East Wing, she informed them stiffly. Dinner will be served at 6. Thank you, Mrs. Winters, Nathan said. Please show the boys to their rooms so they can get settled. As Mrs. Winters led the twins away, Nathan overheard Theo whisper to his brother, 3 months, tops. Then he'll send us back or off to summer camp. The certainty in the boy's voice cut deeper than Nathan expected. Was that how they viewed him? As someone who would inevitably ship them away when they became inconvenient? The worst part was that Theo wasn't wrong. That had been exactly Nathan's pattern for 8 years. The first dinner together set the tone for the awkward days that followed. Nathan had instructed the chef to prepare foods that 12-year-old boys might enjoy. Pizza made with artisanal ingredients, served on the formal dining table with the family's heirloom silver and crystal. We can eat in the kitchen if you prefer, Nathan offered when he noticed the twins' discomfort with the formal setting. This is fine, Theo answered for both of them, sitting straight backed in his chair, carefully mimicking Nathan's use of the correct utensils. Oliver ate little, pushing his food around the plate while stealing glances at the massive portrait of Nathan's grandfather that dominated the dining room wall. "Do you still enjoy soccer, Oliver?" Nathan asked, reaching for topics from their last interaction years ago. "You were quite good, as I recall." "That's Theo," Oliver corrected quietly. "I do cross-country now." Nathan felt heat rise in his face. Of course, my mistake. The silence that followed felt unbearable. The next morning, Nathan delayed his treatment appointment to have breakfast with the boys. He'd instructed the chef to prepare a variety of options, unsure of their preferences. The table was laden with French toast, pancakes, eggs prepared 3 ways, fresh fruit, and pastries. The twins appeared precisely at 7, already dressed in the informal uniforms Nathan had purchased for their new school. They each took a small portion of scrambled eggs and fruit, ignoring the elaborate spread. "I thought we might go shopping this weekend," Nathan suggested. "You'll need additional clothes and perhaps some items to personalize your rooms." "Our rooms are fine," Theo said. "We don't need more stuff," Oliver added, the first time he'd initiated conversation. Nathan tried again. "Perhaps electronics then? Gaming systems or computers?" "We have laptops from school," Theo replied, "and we're not really into gaming." Nathan felt increasingly out of his depth. In business, he excelled at identifying needs and providing solutions. But here, with these boys who shared his blood but were complete strangers to him, his usual analytical approach was failing spectacularly. That afternoon, Nathan found himself standing outside Oliver's closed door, hand raised to knock but frozen in indecision. What would he say? What common ground could they possibly find? Before he could decide, Mrs. Winters appeared in the hallway. "Mr. Reed, your medication schedule indicates it's time for your treatment," she reminded him, her voice lowered. "And Dr. Patel's office called to confirm tomorrow's appointment." Nathan nodded and lowered his hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Winters." He walked away from Oliver's door, telling himself he would try again tomorrow. But as the week progressed, tomorrow began to feel increasingly elusive as his treatment side effects intensified and the boys retreated further into polite, distant cooperation. Elena Voss arrived for her first day to find the magnificent Reed estate functioning with mechanical precision but lacking any warmth. Mrs. Winters provided a coldly efficient orientation, detailing cleaning schedules, laundry procedures, and household protocols with military rigidity. "Mr. Reed expects his surroundings to be immaculate at all times," Mrs. Winters emphasized. "The children are now in residence, which will complicate matters. They've been instructed not to disturb the formal areas of the house." Elena frowned at this. "Restricted from which areas, exactly?" Mrs. Winters gestured expansively. "The main salon, the library, the formal dining room, except for scheduled meals, Mr. Reed's office wing, of course, and the eastern gardens, which contain valuable specimens." "So where are they permitted to be?" Elena asked, increasingly concerned. "Their bedrooms, the kitchen when meals are being prepared, the small den adjacent to their wing, and the western lawns for physical activity," Mrs. Winters replied. "Mr. Reed believes in structured environments for children, or prisons," Elena thought but didn't say. She found Oliver first, sitting alone on the window seat in his bedroom, knees pulled to his chest as he stared out at the gardens he apparently wasn't allowed to explore. "Hello," she said softly, setting down fresh towels. "I'm Elena, the new housekeeper." Oliver glanced at her briefly before returning his gaze to the window. "Hello." Instead of leaving, Elena approached the window. "That's a magnificent oak tree. It must be hundreds of years old." "It's 342 years old," Oliver said unexpectedly. "I read about it in a book about historic Boston estates." Elena smiled. "You enjoy reading?" A small nod. "It passes the time." "I used to be a teacher," Elena shared. "Children's literature was my favorite subject to teach." "What are you reading now?" Oliver hesitated before reaching under his pillow and extracting a worn paperback. A fantasy novel about a young orphan discovering a hidden magical world. "That's one of my favorites," Elena said truthfully. "Have you reached the part where he finds the hidden chamber?" For the first time, interest flickered in Oliver's eyes. "Yes, just last night. No one else I know has read this series. Perhaps we could discuss it sometime," Elena suggested. "I'd love to hear your thoughts on the protagonist's journey." Before Oliver could respond, Theo appeared in the doorway, his protective instincts immediately apparent as he assessed Elena's presence near his brother. "Mrs. Winters sent me to find you," he told Elena, his tone formal. "She says the linens need inventory." "Thank you, Theodore," Elena replied. "I was just introducing myself to Oliver." "It's Theo," he corrected automatically. "Only Mrs. Winters calls me Theodore." Elena nodded, noting this important detail. "Theo it is then, and please feel free to call me Elena." She turned back to Oliver. "Perhaps you could show me that oak tree up close sometime. I'd love to see it." Oliver nodded, a tentative smile forming. "It has a hollow part where birds nest every spring." Later that afternoon, Elena found Theo struggling with a jammed drawer in his desk. His frustration was evident in the tight set of his shoulders. "May I help?" she offered from the doorway. Theo stepped back, reluctantly allowing her access. Elena examined the drawer, noticing it had been forced out of alignment. "This happens with humidity changes," she explained, demonstrating how to lift and realign the drawer. "My father was a carpenter. He taught me all about wood's little quirks." Theo watched carefully, then tried the technique himself. When the drawer slid smoothly, genuine surprise crossed his face. "Thanks. You're welcome," Elena said, noticing the organized contents of his other drawers. Everything meticulously arranged. "You're very orderly." "Someone has to be," Theo replied, a hint of adult weariness in his young voice. "Oliver would lose everything if I didn't keep track." The comment revealed volumes about their dynamic. Theo as protector and organizer, Oliver as the dreamer who needed sheltering. "It's a lot of responsibility," Elena observed. "Looking out for your brother." Theo's guard instantly rose. "I don't mind. We're fine." "Of course you are," Elena agreed easily. "I just meant it's admirable. Not every 12-year-old would be so capable." His posture relaxed slightly at the recognition rather than challenge. "I made cookies this afternoon," Elena continued. "Nothing fancy, but they're in the kitchen if you and Oliver would like some. The good chocolate chips, not the fancy dark ones Mrs. Winters insists are proper." A hint of a smile tugged at Theo's mouth. "Oliver likes milk chocolate best." "Smart boy," Elena said with a conspiratorial wink. "So do I." That evening, when Nathan returned from his treatment session, pale and clearly exhausted, he found an unexpected sight in the kitchen. The twins seated at the counter, cookie crumbs on plates before them, actually talking with Elena as she prepared a simple dinner. The conversation halted when he entered, the brief animation in the boys' expressions immediately replaced by their now familiar polite masks. "Don't stop on my account," Nathan said, aiming for lightness but achieving awkwardness. "I was just about to serve dinner, Mr. Reed," Elena said smoothly. "The boys were helping me decide between pasta options." "I see," Nathan replied, uncertain how to join this domestic scene that seemed so foreign in his own home. "And what was the verdict?" "Penne with Elena's grandmother's sauce recipe," Oliver volunteered quietly. "It smells really good." Nathan nodded, noticing how Elena had somehow accomplished in one day what he had failed to achieve in a week, genuine conversation with his nephews. "Then pen it is," he said, taking a seat at the counter rather than insisting on the formal dining room. "I look forward to trying your grandmother's recipe, Elena." As they ate in the kitchen, a first in Nathan's memory, he observed the subtle ways Elena drew the boys out, asking questions that required more than yes or no answers, sharing small stories that invited reciprocation, creating an atmosphere that felt almost like family. It was both a relief and a painful reminder of his own inadequacy. But as he caught Elena's encouraging smile, Nathan felt something he hadn't expected, hoped that perhaps it wasn't too late after all. 2 weeks into the aggressive treatment protocol, Nathan could no longer hide its effects. The powerful medications attacked not only the cancer cells but seemed determined to wage war on his entire body. Each session left him increasingly weakened, with nausea that lingered for days and bone-deep fatigue that no amount of rest seemed to alleviate. "The side effects are within expected parameters," Dr. Patel assured him during his weekly assessment. "Your blood counts show the treatment is working, but your body is fighting hard." "I need to maintain my normal schedule," Nathan insisted, gripping the edge of the examination table to steady himself. "The boys can't see how severe this is." Dr. Patel's expression softened with concern. "Mr. Reed, hiding your condition will only make things harder. Children are perceptive. They'll sense something is wrong even if you don't tell them." Nathan shook his head stubbornly. "They've experienced enough loss. I won't have them watching me deteriorate day by day." But his determination proved insufficient against the relentless assault of the treatment. The morning after his third chemotherapy session, Nathan woke to find his pillow covered with strands of his once thick hair. By evening, his reflection showed a stranger, hollow-cheeked and fragile, with patchy hair that emphasized rather than concealed his condition. That night, dizzy from medication and weakened by days of minimal nutrition, Nathan collapsed in the hallway outside his bedroom. The sound of his fall echoed through the quiet house. Oliver found him first, frozen in shock at the sight of his powerful uncle crumpled on the floor. The boy's panicked call brought Theo running, followed quickly by Elena from her quarters in the east wing. "Call an ambulance," Theo commanded, his young voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "No," Nathan managed, struggling to sit up. "No hospital. Just help me to bed." Elena knelt beside him, her assessment quick and professional. "Boys, get some water and the medication from Mr. Reed's nightstand." As the twins hurried to follow her instructions, Elena helped Nathan to a sitting position, her arms supporting his back with surprising strength. "You should have told me how bad it was getting," she said quietly. "I could have been helping more." "It's not your responsibility," Nathan replied, humiliated by his weakness. "Neither is it yours to bear alone," Elena countered firmly. "Nor is it fair to the boys to keep them in the dark. They've already lost their parents, Nathan. They deserve the truth about what's happening to you." The use of his first name, a boundary she had never before crossed, underscored the gravity of the moment. Before he could respond, the twins returned with water and medication. "Should we call Dr. Patel?" Theo asked, his composure slipping to reveal the frightened child beneath. "I'll be fine," Nathan insisted. "Just a momentary weakness." Oliver, usually the quieter twin, suddenly spoke with unexpected intensity. "Stop lying to us." His voice trembled. "We know something's wrong. We're not babies." The raw hurt in the boy's voice struck Nathan with the force of physical pain. He looked from Oliver to Theo, seeing not the polite, distant nephews of recent weeks, but vulnerable children teetering on the edge of another devastating loss. With Elena's steady support, Nathan made his way to his bed. Once settled, he took a deep breath and made a decision. "You're right," he told the twins, who stood anxiously at the foot of his bed. "I haven't been honest with you, and you deserve better. I'm ill, quite seriously ill. It's a form of leukemia." The twins' identical expressions reflected their shock at this confirmation of their fears. "Are you going to die?" Oliver asked bluntly, his voice small. Nathan looked to Elena, who gave him an encouraging nod. "The doctors are doing everything possible to prevent that," he answered honestly. "But yes, it's a possibility we have to consider." Theo's protective instincts immediately surfaced. "What happens to us if you do?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. What indeed would happen to these boys if they lost their last remaining family member? "We'll talk about that," Nathan promised. "But not tonight. Tonight, I just want you to know that I'm fighting as hard as I can to stay with you." After the twins reluctantly returned to their rooms, Elena remained, adjusting Nathan's pillows and ensuring his medications were within reach. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For being here. Where else would I be?" she replied with a gentle smile. "Get some rest, Nathan. Tomorrow we will adjust." Following Nathan's collapse, subtle but profound changes transformed the Reed household. Elena stepped naturally into a role far beyond her job description, becoming the emotional center that held their fragile family unit together. Each morning she created a medication schedule that balanced Nathan's treatment needs with moments of normalcy for the twins. She coordinated with Dr. Patel to ensure Nathan's comfort, while strategically planning activities that allowed him to participate in family life despite his diminishing strength. "The eastern garden needs attention," Mrs. Winters complained one afternoon, noting the overgrown rose bushes. "The garden can wait," Elena replied firmly. "Mr. Reed needs those blinds adjusted to reduce his headaches, and the boys need help with their science projects." Mrs. Winters' mouth tightened with disapproval. "You're overstepping your position, Miss Voss." "Perhaps," Elena acknowledged calmly. "But someone needs to prioritize the people over the property." This philosophy manifested in countless small ways. Elena replaced the formal dining settings with comfortable casual meals, where conversation flowed more easily. She transformed the stuffy den into a cozy space, with soft throws and cushions where Nathan could rest while the boys worked on homework nearby. When Nathan's hair loss became too obvious to ignore, Elena arrived at breakfast with her own hair tied back, holding a set of electric clippers. "It's going to fall out anyway," she said practically. "Better to take control of the process." To everyone's surprise, Nathan agreed. In the kitchen, with the twins watching wide-eyed, Elena carefully shaved Nathan's remaining hair. When she finished, Theo studied his uncle's bare head critically. "You look like that action movie star," he decided. "The tough one who always saves the day." Nathan managed to smile, not feeling particularly tough at the moment. "Heroes don't always feel brave," Oliver commented quietly. "They just do what needs doing anyway." The simple observation hung in the air, a moment of unexpected wisdom from the usually reserved boy. The following day, Elena established a new routine. Each evening, the four of them gathered in the library, where they took turns reading aloud from novels the boys selected. On days when Nathan felt stronger, he would read. When weakness overtook him, Elena or one of the twins continued the story. "My kindergarten students loved story time," Elena explained when Nathan questioned this new tradition. "But it's not just for children. Stories connect us, give us common ground." Watching the twins gradually relax into these shared moments, Nathan realized Elena had created something he'd never managed on his own, a sense of belonging, of shared experience despite the circumstances that had brought them together. As April turned to May, unexpected connections blossomed within the walls of the Reed estate. The twins, initially so guarded, began showing signs of genuine attachment to both adults in their lives. Oliver, discovering Nathan's college background in astronomy, began leaving constellation charts on his uncle's nightstand. "I thought you might like to see what's visible this month," he explained shyly when Nathan thanked him. This simple gesture led to late-evening stargazing sessions on the balcony outside Nathan's bedroom. Wrapped in blankets against the spring chill, uncle and nephew would track celestial movements, Oliver's knowledge often surpassing Nathan's rusty recollections. "Mom loved the stars too," Oliver mentioned one night, the first time he'd voluntarily spoken of his mother since arriving. "She used to tell us that when people die, they become stars so they can always watch over the people they love." Nathan swallowed hard. "Your mother would be very proud of you, Oliver, of both of you." "Do you really think so?" Oliver asked, vulnerability clear in his voice. "Sometimes I worry I'm not what she would have wanted me to be." "She wanted you to be exactly who you are," Nathan assured him, hesitantly placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Kind, thoughtful, curious about the world. That's exactly who you're becoming." For the first time, Oliver didn't pull away from his touch. Theo's transformation was equally meaningful but took a different path. His protective nature found new expression in helping Elena manage Nathan's care. He memorized medication schedules, researched leukemia treatments online, and kept meticulous notes of symptoms to report to Dr. Patel. "You don't have to do all this," Nathan told him one afternoon, impressed by the boy's detailed tracking system. "I like having a job," Theo replied matter-of-factly. "It helps." Nathan understood then that Theo's organization was his way of creating control in a situation where so much felt uncertain, the same coping mechanism Nathan himself had employed throughout his life. "You're remarkably like me," Nathan observed, "though I think you have more heart." Theo looked up, surprised by the comparison. "Mom always said I got my stubborn streak from you." "She was right about that," Nathan acknowledged with a small smile. "Your mother saw people clearly." The mention of his sister no longer brought only pain but a bittersweet connection to the boys who carried parts of her in them. Perhaps the most unexpected development was the quiet understanding that grew between Nathan and Elena. Their initial employer-employee relationship evolved into something neither could easily define, a partnership built on shared concern for the twins and grudging mutual respect. Late one evening, after the boys had gone to bed, Nathan found Elena in the kitchen preparing his medication for the following day. "You should rest," he told her. "You do too much already." Elena smiled as she measured doses into labeled containers. "I don't mind. It gives me purpose. Is that what we all are to you? A purpose?" Nathan asked, genuinely curious about her dedication. Elena considered the question seriously. At first, perhaps, but now... She looked up, meeting his gaze. "Now you're all becoming something more, something like family." The word hung between them, loaded with meaning neither was ready to fully examine. "I never thanked you properly," Nathan said, changing the subject slightly, "for what you've done for the boys. They're different with you, more open, more themselves." "Children respond to authenticity," Elena replied. "They know when adults are genuinely interested in them versus just going through the motions." The gentle rebuke wasn't lost on Nathan. "I've never known how to connect with them. Even before their parents died, I was the distant uncle who brought expensive gifts but never really saw them." "You're seeing them now," Elena pointed out. "That's what matters." As Nathan made his way back to his bedroom, he paused at the twins' doors, slightly ajar as they now preferred. Inside each room, evidence of genuine living had replaced the sterile guest room atmosphere. Books stacked on nightstands, school projects spread across desks, walls adorned with posters Elena had helped them select. For the first time since his diagnosis, Nathan felt a sense of peace. Whatever time he had left, he was finally building something meaningful. If you're finding value in this story of unexpected connections and second chances, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. At Mr. Raw Story Trail, I bring you these profound human journeys that remind us how life's most difficult challenges often lead to our greatest blessings. Like Nathan and the twins, we sometimes need to face painful truths before healing can begin. In the next part of our story, a medical emergency will lead to a discovery that will change everything these four people thought they knew about family and identity. Subscribe now so you don't miss this life-changing revelation that proves sometimes the family we're meant to have finds us in the most unexpected ways. The morning began like any other in the new rhythm of the Reed household. Elena prepared breakfast while Theo quizzed Oliver on their upcoming history test. Nathan, having a rare good day following his treatments, joined them at the kitchen table, reviewing business documents but present in a way he hadn't been before his diagnosis. "You're not eating," Theo observed, watching his brother push scrambled eggs around his plate. Oliver shrugged. "Not hungry." Elena placed a hand on Oliver's forehead. You feel warm. Are you feeling sick? I'm fine, Oliver insisted, though his unusual pallor suggested otherwise. Just tired. Nathan looked up from his papers. Perhaps you should stay home today. We have that history test, Oliver protested weakly, and science lab. Both can be made up, Nathan replied. Your health comes first. By mid-morning, Oliver's condition had deteriorated rapidly. Elena found him curled in his bed, shivering despite the 3 blankets he'd piled on himself. His skin burned with fever, and alarming blue-purple bruises had appeared on his arms and legs, bruises he couldn't explain. I didn't hit anything, he mumbled when Elena gently questioned him. They just showed up. Elena immediately called Nathan, who was meeting with his executive team. Oliver needs a doctor. His fever is 103, and he has unexplained bruising. Nathan didn't hesitate. I'll be home in 20 minutes. Call Dr. Patel in the meantime. Dr. Patel, concerned by the symptoms Elena described, advised them to take Oliver directly to the emergency room. Those symptoms warrant immediate evaluation, she said. I'll call ahead so they're expecting you. When Nathan arrived home, he found Elena efficiently packing a small bag for Oliver, while Theo hovered anxiously at his brother's bedside. Can I come too? Theo asked as Nathan lifted a semi-conscious Oliver into his arms. You should stay here with Mrs. Winters, Nathan began, but Elena interrupted. He needs to come, she said firmly. The twins shouldn't be separated right now. Nathan nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her words. Of course. The drive to Boston Memorial Hospital passed in tense silence, broken only by Oliver's occasional whimpers as the car hit bumps in the road. Nathan, still weak from his own treatments, pushed aside his fatigue, focusing entirely on the boy in his arms. In the emergency department, Oliver was immediately taken to an examination room. The attending physician, Dr. Lowenstein, moved with controlled urgency that heightened Nathan's concern. How long has he been experiencing these symptoms? The doctor asked as she examined the extensive bruising. The fever started this morning, Elena explained. We noticed the bruising about 2 hours ago. Dr. Lowenstein nodded, gently palpating Oliver's abdomen and checking his glands. Has he complained of any other symptoms recently? Fatigue? Headaches? Bleeding gums? Theo spoke up from the corner where he'd been silently watching. He's been tired for a while, and he got a nosebleed last week that took forever to stop. You didn't tell me about that, Nathan said, surprised. Oliver said not to worry you because you were already sick, Theo explained, his expression torn between loyalty to his brother and concern for his welfare. Dr. Lowenstein made notes in Oliver's chart. I'm ordering comprehensive blood work immediately. We'll also need to check his bone marrow. Bone marrow? Nathan repeated, a chill running through him at the familiar terminology from his own diagnosis. It's standard procedure with these symptoms, the doctor assured him, though her expression remained grave. We need to rule out several possibilities. As Oliver was wheeled away for tests, Nathan, Elena, and Theo settled into the small waiting area. Theo sat rigidly in his chair, eyes fixed on the door through which his brother had disappeared. He'll be okay, Elena said softly, placing a hand on Theo's shoulder. The doctors here are excellent. You don't know that, Theo replied, his voice barely audible. You can't promise he'll be okay. You're right, Elena acknowledged. I can't promise that, but I can promise we'll be here with him, whatever happens. Nathan watched this exchange, struck by Elena's honesty. No false reassurances, no empty platitudes, just the truth delivered with compassion. It was exactly what Theo needed. Hours passed in the sterile waiting room. Nathan made calls to postpone meetings and arrange for extended leave from the company. Theo eventually fell asleep, his head resting against Elena's shoulder. Elena remained awake, her expression revealing the depth of her concern for a boy who, just months ago, had been a stranger to her. Finally, Dr. Lowenstein returned, accompanied by a specialist introduced as Dr. Chen from pediatric hematology. We've completed the initial tests, Dr. Lowenstein began. Oliver's condition is serious, but we've started treatment to stabilize him. What's wrong with him? Nathan asked directly. Dr. Chen took over. Oliver is presenting with severe anemia and abnormal blood cell counts. His bone marrow shows characteristics consistent with diamond blackfan anemia, a rare genetic blood disorder. Genetic? Nathan repeated, his mind immediately connecting this to his own blood cancer. Is this related to my condition? That's one of the questions we need to explore, Dr. Chen replied carefully. Family history is important in these cases. We'd like to test both you and Theodore as soon as possible. Oliver was admitted to the pediatric ward, pale and frightened but stabilized with initial treatments. Once he was settled, Dr. Chen requested blood samples from both Nathan and Theo. How likely is it that Theo has the same condition? Nathan asked as the nurse prepared the blood draw materials. Diamond blackfan anemia has various inheritance patterns, Dr. Chen explained. In identical twins, we would typically expect to see the same condition in both children, but there are cases where only one twin is affected. But they're identical, Nathan said, watching Theo bravely extend his arm for the needle. That's why this testing is so important, Dr. Chen replied. It will help us understand the genetic components at play. While they waited for results, Nathan called Elena, who had returned to the estate to pack overnight bags for everyone. The doctors think it's something called diamond blackfan anemia, he explained. They're running genetic tests on all of us. How's Oliver doing? Elena asked, the concern evident in her voice. He's stable, but very weak. They've given him a blood transfusion and started him on steroids. Nathan paused. Elena, the doctor mentioned this is a genetic condition. What if my leukemia somehow... What if I passed something to him? Oliver is not your biological nephew, Elena reminded him gently. He's your sister's son. Your conditions would only be related if there was a genetic predisposition in both you and your sister. The reminder provided little comfort. Biological connection or not, Nathan felt responsible for these boys. And if his sister had carried a genetic predisposition that had affected Oliver, it added another layer of complexity to an already difficult situation. 24 hours later, Dr. Chen requested a meeting with Nathan alone. Her expression was professionally neutral but hinted at unexpected news. Mr. Reed, we've analyzed the blood samples from you, Oliver, and Theodore, she began. The results show some anomalies we need to discuss. Anomalies? Nathan repeated, tension building in his chest. Yes. First, as suspected, Oliver's tests confirmed diamond blackfan anemia. We've already begun appropriate treatment. She paused, choosing her words carefully. However, Theodore's blood work shows no signs of the condition, which is unusual in identical twins. So they're not identical? Nathan asked, confused. They are identical twins, according to their genetic markers, Dr. Chen confirmed. But here's where it gets complicated. When we compared their DNA to yours, we found no genetic relationship between you and either of the twins. Nathan stared at her. That's impossible. They're my sister's sons. Dr. Chen maintained her professional composure. The DNA doesn't support that conclusion, Mr. Reed. There is zero genetic relation between you and either twin. There must be a mistake, Nathan insisted, his mind racing. Run the tests again. We did, Dr. Chen assured him. 3 times, with the same result each time. You share no genetic material with these boys. Nathan fell silent, trying to process this impossible information. If the twins weren't related to him, and by extension not related to his sister, then whose children were they? This raises obvious questions about their parentage, Dr. Chen continued gently. In medical situations like Oliver's, understanding the true genetic background becomes crucial for treatment. They are my nephews, Nathan said firmly. Legally, I am their guardian. Nothing changes that. Of course, Dr. Chen agreed. But medically, we need to pursue the genetic question. It may help us identify relatives who could be potential bone marrow donors if Oliver needs a transplant. The implications were staggering. For 8 years, Nathan had believed these boys were his sister's children. How could they not be? He had witnessed her pregnancy, been present at their birth, watched them grow through early childhood. There had never been any question of their parentage. What do you suggest? He finally asked. With your permission, we'd like to run the twins' DNA through medical databases to look for potential matches, Dr. Chen explained. This might help us identify genetic relatives who could provide important health information or potentially serve as donors. Nathan nodded numbly. Do whatever helps, Oliver. Nathan sat beside Oliver's hospital bed, watching the boy sleep. Theo had finally agreed to go to the cafeteria with a nurse for dinner, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts and the steady beeping of medical monitors. His phone vibrated with a text from Elena, just arrived back at hospital. Need anything before I come up? Her consistent presence throughout this crisis had become something he relied on without question. Just you, he typed back, then deleted it, replacing it with a simple, no, thank you. When Elena entered the room minutes later, she immediately sensed his distress. What's happened? Is Oliver worse? No, his condition is stable, Nathan assured her. It's something else. He glanced at the sleeping boy before motioning Elena into the hallway. Once outside, Nathan struggled to find the words. The DNA test showed something impossible. The twins aren't related to me. Elena's eyes widened. What do you mean? Genetically, there's no relationship between me and either boy, Nathan explained, still grappling with the concept himself. Which means they can't be my sister's sons either. But how is that possible? Elena asked. You've known them since birth. I don't know, Nathan admitted. The doctors want to run their DNA through medical databases to look for matches, potential relatives who might help with Oliver's treatment. Elena leaned against the wall, visibly processing this shocking information. What will this mean for your guardianship? Legally, nothing changes, Nathan said firmly. My sister and her husband are listed as their parents on all documentation. I am their legal guardian regardless of biology. Before Elena could respond, Dr. Chen approached them, tablet in hand. Mr. Reed, we have some preliminary results from the database search. Nathan straightened. Already? That was fast. We prioritized the search given Oliver's condition, she explained. We've identified a partial genetic match that might be significant. A relative? Nathan asked. Possibly, Dr. Chen replied, her expression carefully neutral. The match comes from medical records at Boston Fertility Partners from about 12 years ago. The fertility clinic? Elena suddenly interjected, her voice strange. Dr. Chen looked at her with surprise. Yes, are you familiar with it? Elena's face had gone pale. I was a patient there 12 years ago. My husband and I were undergoing fertility treatments. An odd silence fell among them as this coincidence registered. Ms. Voss, may I ask if you completed IVF procedures at that clinic? Dr. Chen asked carefully. Yes, Elena whispered. We created embryos, but I never successfully conceived. They told me I was infertile. Dr. Chen looked from Elena to Nathan, then back at her tablet. Given this information, with your permission, I'd like to run a direct comparison between your DNA and the twins. You think you can't possibly be suggesting? Elena couldn't complete the thought, the implication too overwhelming. There have been documented cases of embryo mix-ups at fertility clinics, Dr. Chen said gently. It's rare, but it happens. Nathan watched as Elena processed this possibility, that the children she had believed she could never have might have been born to another woman. His sister. Do whatever tests you need, Elena finally said, her voice shaking. If there's any chance, I need to know. As Dr. Chen led Elena away for a blood draw, Nathan returned to Oliver's room, his mind reeling. The impossible was beginning to seem possible, that through some extraordinary mistake, his sister had carried and given birth to children who were biologically Elena's. He looked at Oliver's sleeping face, searching for features he might have missed before. The shape of his eyes, the curve of his mouth. Could these belong to the woman who had come into their lives just months ago? Theo returned from the cafeteria, immediately moving to his brother's side. Is he okay? Yes, Nathan assured him. No changes. Theo studied his uncle's face. Something's wrong. What aren't you telling me? Despite his youth, Theo's perception was uncanny. Nathan chose his words carefully. The doctors are running more tests to understand Oliver's condition better. There may be some unexpected information about your background. What kind of information? Theo asked, instantly alert. I don't have all the answers yet, Nathan replied honestly. But I promise, when I do, you and Oliver will be the first to know. Theo nodded, accepting this for now. He returned his attention to his brother, taking Oliver's hand in his own. As Nathan watched the twins, one sleeping, one keeping vigilant watch, he was struck by the realization that regardless of their biological origins, these boys were family. His family. Whether by blood, law, or the bonds formed over these past months, nothing could change that essential truth. But if Elena's DNA matched theirs, everything they thought they knew about their identities would be transformed. And Nathan couldn't begin to predict what that would mean for all of them. While Oliver remained hospitalized, Nathan retreated to his home office, phone pressed to his ear. James, I need your team mobilized immediately. This takes priority over everything else. James Chen, head of Reed Technologies' elite cybersecurity division, recognized the gravity in his boss's voice. What are we looking for? Everything on Boston Fertility Partners from 12 years ago. Staff records, procedure protocols, patient files, especially any incidents or irregularities. Medical records are protected by... I'm aware of privacy laws, Nathan interrupted. Find legal channels, court orders if necessary, cite medical emergency for expedited processing. Oliver's treatment depends on accurate genetic information. Nathan hung up and immediately dialed his chief legal counsel. Margaret, I need the best medical malpractice attorney in Boston, someone who's handled fertility clinic cases specifically. As he coordinated his team's efforts, Nathan's mind raced through memories of his sister's pregnancy. She and Daniel had tried for years to conceive before turning to fertility treatments. The twins' birth had seemed a miracle after their struggles. Had she ever suspected the children weren't biologically hers? A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Elena stood in the doorway, her face pale but composed after her blood draw at the hospital. The doctor said it will take at least 24 hours for conclusive results, she said. I couldn't stay there just waiting. Nathan nodded, understanding completely. I've mobilized my team to investigate the fertility clinic. If there was a mix-up, we'll find evidence. Elena took a seat across from him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I keep thinking about those years. All the treatments, the disappointments. The embryos we created should have been frozen after our first failed attempt. We were saving them for another try when my husband left. Did you ever follow up about those embryos? Nathan asked. Elena shook her head. After the divorce, I couldn't bear to think about them. My ex-husband wanted nothing to do with the process anymore. I assumed they remained frozen or were eventually destroyed according to our agreement with the clinic. Nathan made a note. We'll trace the complete chain of custody for your embryos, if the twins are actually mine. Elena's voice caught. How do we even begin to process that? Before Nathan could respond, his phone rang. Dr. Chen's name flashed on the screen. Mr. Reed, preliminary results from Ms. Voss's DNA comparison are available, she said without preamble. The analysis shows a 99.9% probability that Ms. Voss is the biological mother of both Oliver and Theodore. Though they had suspected this outcome, hearing the scientific confirmation sent a shock through Nathan. And the biological father? We don't have a match in our system, Dr. Chen replied. We would need DNA from Ms. Voss's former husband for comparison. I understand. Thank you, doctor. When Nathan relayed the information, Elena pressed her hand to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. It's true then. They're mine. My babies have been alive all these years, growing up without me, never knowing. We still don't know exactly what happened, Nathan cautioned, though the evidence was becoming irrefutable. I need to see them, Elena said, suddenly standing. I need to be with Oliver. Wait, Nathan said gently. We shouldn't tell them anything until we have the complete picture. This will be shocking enough without missing pieces. Elena reluctantly agreed. You're right, but I'm going back to the hospital. Biological mother or not, Oliver needs support right now. As she left, Nathan turned back to his computer, determination hardening his resolve. Someone had made a catastrophic mistake 12 years ago, a mistake that had altered multiple lives forever. He would find the truth regardless of the cost. 3 days into Oliver's hospitalization, Nathan's investigation began yielding results. James Chen arrived at the hospital with a secure laptop and a grim expression. We've identified a major procedural breach at Boston Fertility Partners during the exact time frame your sister and Ms. Voss were patients, James explained, opening files on his laptop. The clinic underwent a management change and staff restructuring 12 years ago, following several internal incidents that were never publicly disclosed. Nathan leaned forward. What kind of incidents? That's where it gets interesting, James replied. The records were deliberately obscured, but we found sealed court documents involving 3 separate settlements with former patients. All settlements included extreme confidentiality clauses. Can we access the actual case details? James nodded. Margaret's legal team obtained a court order this morning based on Oliver's medical necessity. The documents are being unsealed as we speak. While they waited for the legal team's findings, Nathan visited Oliver, whose condition had stabilized with treatment. The boy was awake, though weak, flipping through a book Elena had brought him. How are you feeling today? Nathan asked, taking a seat beside the bed. Better, Oliver replied. They say I can go home in a few days if my blood counts keep improving. Nathan nodded, studying the boy's face with new awareness. He could see Elena in him now, the same expressive eyes, the gentle curve of his mouth when he smiled. How had he never noticed before? Uncle Nathan? Oliver's voice pulled him back to the present. Is something wrong? You're looking at me strangely. Just thinking how grateful I am that you're getting better, Nathan replied. Not quite a lie. Oliver accepted this, returning to his book. Theo, who had barely left his brother's side, looked less convinced but said nothing. Later that evening, Margaret Wang, Reed Technologies' chief legal counsel, arrived with a folder marked confidential. We've obtained access to all relevant documents, she informed Nathan and Elena in the private waiting room. The story they tell is disturbing. According to the records, a lab technician named Robert Mercer had been responsible for multiple procedural violations at Boston Fertility Partners over a 2-year period. In at least 3 documented cases, embryos had been mislabeled or transferred to incorrect patients. Mercer was eventually fired when the mistakes came to light, but the clinic covered up the full extent of the problems to avoid a scandal, Margaret explained. They identified and contacted some affected families privately, offering settlements in exchange for silence. But they didn't contact everyone, Elena said, the implication clear. It appears not, Margaret confirmed. We found records indicating a comprehensive audit was ordered but never completed. The clinic's leadership changed hands shortly after, and the new management seemed unaware of unresolved cases. Nathan's jaw tightened. So my sister was never told she was carrying someone else's biological children, and I was told I couldn't conceive when my embryos had actually resulted in a successful pregnancy, Elena added, her voice hollow. Margaret nodded solemnly. We've located Robert Mercer. He's currently working at a research facility in Colorado. Our investigators interviewed him yesterday. What did he say? Nathan demanded. He admitted to the mistakes, including specifically recalling a mix-up involving surname confusion. There were 2 patients with similar-sounding last names scheduled for procedures on the same day. Voss and Foss. Elena gasped. My sister-in-law's maiden name was Foss, Michael's sister. Mercer confirmed he confused the charts and lab samples. Margaret continued. Your sister-in-law wasn't a patient, but the similarity in names caused him to mislabel the embryos. When he realized his error later, he was too afraid of losing his job to report it. Nathan stood abruptly, anger coursing through him. He altered the course of multiple lives through sheer negligence, then covered it up to protect himself? The clinic bears equal responsibility, Margaret pointed out. Their oversight failures and subsequent cover-up magnified the damage. As the implications of these revelations settled over them, Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Chen. Need to speak with you immediately regarding Oliver's treatment options. The following morning, Nathan and Elena met with Dr. Chen in her office. The doctor's expression was serious, but hopeful. Oliver's condition is responding to treatment, but long-term, he may need a bone marrow transplant, she explained. Given what we now know about his biological parentage, this actually improves his options. How so? Nathan asked. Siblings typically have a 25% chance of being perfect matches for bone marrow donation, but identical twins are 100% matches, Dr. Chen explained. Theodore is the ideal donor for Oliver if a transplant becomes necessary. Elena absorbed this information with visible emotion. So Theo could save his brother's life. Potentially, yes, Dr. Chen confirmed. But this raises the question of when and how to share the truth with the boys. They'll need to understand their biological relationship before we discuss Theo as a donor. The weight of this responsibility pressed heavily on both adults. How did one tell 12-year-old boys that everything they believed about their origins was incorrect? We need to consult a child psychologist, Elena suggested. Someone who can guide us through this conversation in the least traumatic way possible, Nathan agreed. I'll arrange for Dr. Melissa Winters to meet with us. She specializes in helping children process complex family information. The next 48 hours passed in careful preparation. Dr. Winters met with Nathan and Elena separately, then together, helping them craft an approach that prioritized the twins' emotional well-being. Children this age are remarkably resilient, Dr. Winters assured them, but they need honesty delivered with compassion. The key is emphasizing what isn't changing, that they are loved and their family bonds remain secure, regardless of biology. Elena struggled with overwhelming emotions as the moment approached. What if they hate me for not being part of their lives? What if they feel I abandoned them? You didn't know, Nathan reminded her gently. You were a victim in this situation too. But I'm suddenly a mother to 12-year-old boys who don't know me as their mother, Elena said, the magnitude of this reality washing over her. I've missed everything. Their first words, first steps, every birthday, every milestone. Not everything, Nathan countered. You've been building relationships with them for months now. They already care about you. That foundation will help them process this news. On the day before Oliver's scheduled release from the hospital, Nathan and Elena met once more with Dr. Winters to finalize their approach. Begin with what they already know, the psychologist advised. They're aware that Oliver's condition is genetic and the tests revealed unexpected information. Build from there, allowing plenty of time for questions. Should we tell them everything at once? Nathan asked, about Elena being their biological mother and the fertility clinic mix-up. Dr. Winters nodded. Partial truths will only necessitate multiple difficult conversations. A complete explanation, delivered appropriately, is best. As they prepared to return to the hospital, Nathan noticed Elena's hands trembling. Are you ready for this? He asked softly. No, she admitted, but they deserve the truth, and Oliver needs to understand his medical options. She took a deep breath. These boys have been my children all along, without either of us knowing. I've loved them as myself these past months. That won't change, regardless of how they respond to this news. Nathan felt a profound respect for her courage. We'll do this together, he promised, offering his hand. Elena took it, drawing strength from his steady presence. Together, they drove to the hospital in thoughtful silence, each contemplating how completely their lives would change once the truth was spoken aloud. The family they had become, formed through chance, cemented through care during Nathan's illness, was about to be redefined yet again. What neither of them could predict was how the twins would respond to learning that the woman who had been caring for them as a housekeeper was, in fact, their biological mother, and that the uncle they had only recently begun to know as family shared no blood with them at all. Oliver's hospital room had been transformed for this conversation. The medical staff, understanding the gravity of what was about to occur, had arranged for a private family room instead, a space with comfortable couches and soft lighting, free from the constant beeping of monitors and interruptions from routine checks. Oliver, finally strong enough to sit up without assistance, settled onto the couch next to his brother. Though still pale, the blood transfusions and medication had returned some color to his cheeks. Theo sat protectively close, his watchful eyes moving between Nathan and Elena, clearly sensing the unusual tension. Nathan cleared his throat, feeling woefully unprepared despite days of preparation. "Boys, we need to talk about something important, something we've discovered during Oliver's treatment." "Is it about my condition?" Oliver asked quietly. "Is it worse than you said?" "No," Elena quickly assured him, sitting across from the twins. "Your treatment is going well. This is about something else," the tests revealed. Nathan nodded, choosing his words carefully. When the doctors ran genetic tests to understand Oliver's condition better, they found something unexpected, something none of us knew before. The twins exchanged glances, that silent communication they'd perfected over their 12 years together. "What?" Theo finally prompted, his posture tense with anticipation. Nathan took a deep breath. "The test showed that you and Oliver aren't biologically related to me." A confused frown creased Theo's forehead. "What does that mean? You're our uncle." "I am your uncle in every way that matters," Nathan assured them quickly. "I'm still your legal guardian. Nothing changes that. But according to the DNA tests, we don't share the same genetic background." "She was my sister," Nathan said firmly. "We grew up together, shared parents, shared our lives. But the tests indicate that you boys aren't biologically related to either of us." The twins sat in stunned silence, absorbing this first layer of revelation. "If Mom and Dad weren't our biological parents, then who is?" Theo finally asked, his analytical mind pushing through the confusion to the logical question. Nathan glanced at Elena, whose hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. This was the moment they'd prepared for, yet nothing could truly prepare them for the reality of it. "That's the second part of what we need to tell you," Nathan continued gently. "The doctors found a genetic match for both of you, a very close match." Elena leaned forward slightly. "The match is me," she said, her voice remarkably steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "According to the DNA tests, I am your biological mother." The silence that followed was absolute. Oliver's mouth fell open in shock, while Theo's eyes narrowed in confusion and disbelief. "That's impossible," Theo finally said. "We don't even know you. You just started working here a few months ago." "I know how incredible this sounds," Elena acknowledged. "I was just as shocked when the doctors told me. If you're biologically our mother," Oliver struggled with the concept, "then who's our father?" "My ex-husband, Michael," Elena explained gently. "We were undergoing fertility treatments 12 years ago at the same clinic where your parents, where Nathan's sister and her husband, were patients." Nathan took over, explaining in simplified terms about the clinic mix-up, the mislabeled embryos, the negligence that had altered all their lives. He emphasized that neither set of parents had known about the mistake, that Elena had believed she couldn't have children, while his sister had no reason to question that the twins were biologically hers. As the explanation unfolded, Theo's expression hardened into a protective mask, while Oliver's eyes filled with tears. "So everything we thought about ourselves is a lie?" Theo demanded, anger beginning to surface through his shock. "We're not who we thought we were?" "You are exactly who you've always been," Nathan countered firmly. "This changes nothing about who you are as people, as brothers, but it changes everything else," Theo shot back, standing abruptly. "The mom and dad we remember weren't really ours, and now suddenly she's our mother?" He gestured toward Elena without looking at her. "Someone we've known for what, 3 months?" Elena flinched at his words but remained calm. "I understand this is overwhelming, Theo. I don't expect you to think of me as your mother right away, or ever, if that's not what feels right to you. The people who raised you, who loved you from birth, they were your parents in every way that truly matters." Oliver, quieter but equally shaken, finally spoke. "Did you know? When you came to work for Uncle Nathan, did you know about us?" "No," Elena answered honestly. "I had no idea. I believed I couldn't have children at all. Learning about you both has been miraculous and heartbreaking all at once." "Heartbreaking?" Oliver echoed. "Because I missed everything," Elena explained, emotion finally breaking through her composed exterior. "Your first words, your first steps. All the moments a mother dreams of sharing with her children." Oliver studied her face with new intensity, perhaps seeing familiar features reflected in his own for the first time. "Is that why you've been so nice to us? Because somehow you sensed we were yours?" Elena shook her head. "I was drawn to you both because of who you are. Your kindness, your intelligence, your unique personalities. I had no idea there was any biological connection." Theo remained standing, his body language closed and defensive. "Why are you telling us this now? Why not just keep it a secret?" Nathan answered this one. 2 reasons. First, you deserve the truth about your identities, difficult as it may be to hear. Second, it's medically important for Oliver's treatment. Dr. Chen, who had been silently present in the corner of the room, stepped forward at her cue. Oliver's condition may eventually require a bone marrow transplant, she explained gently. Identical twins make perfect matches for donation. Theo could potentially be the donor who helps cure Oliver completely. This medical reality shifted something in Theo's expression, the anger momentarily giving way to concern for his brother. Oliver reached for Theo's hand, a silent plea for him to sit back down. "So, what happens now?" Theo asked as he reluctantly rejoined his brother on the couch. "Does everything change? Do we have to call her mom? Do we move somewhere else?" "Nothing has to change immediately," Nathan assured them. "We all need time to process this information. You'll continue living at the estate, continuing your schooling. Elena will remain in your lives, but how your relationship develops is something we'll navigate together, at whatever pace feels right." Oliver looked at Elena with uncertainty. "Did you ever want to find us? Before all this happened?" "I didn't know you existed to find," Elena answered softly. "But if I had known, I would have searched the entire world for you. Never doubt that." The initial shock gave way to a tangle of conflicting emotions over the hours that followed. The carefully planned conversation evolved into something messier and more authentic, as each person processed the revelation in their own way. Theo retreated into angry silence after the initial discussion, positioning himself by the window, physically distancing himself from the others. When Nathan approached him, the boy's shoulders tensed. "I know this is overwhelming," Nathan began. "You don't know anything," Theo cut him off, his voice low. "You're not even really our uncle." The words stung, but Nathan recognized the pain beneath them. "Biology doesn't define family, Theo. I've been your guardian for 8 years. That relationship is real." "Is it?" Theo challenged, finally turning to face him. "You sent us away to boarding school. You barely visited. You didn't want us around until you got sick." The brutal honesty of a 12-year-old cut deeper than any business rival's criticism ever had. Nathan couldn't deny the truth in Theo's words. "You're right," he acknowledged. "I failed you both after your parents died. I was so focused on building my company that I neglected what truly mattered. That's why I brought you home when I received my diagnosis. I wanted to make amends for those years. And now we find out we're not even related to you," Theo said, his voice cracking slightly. "So why would you even want us anymore?" Nathan placed a careful hand on the boy's shoulder. "Because you and Oliver are the closest thing to family I have. DNA doesn't change that. I've grown to care deeply about both of you these past months, not because of obligation, but because of who you are." Across the room, Oliver had taken a different approach to processing the news. After his initial shock, he began asking Elena dozens of questions about her childhood, her family medical history, whether she had liked the same books he enjoyed at his age. "Did you know you were having twins?" he asked suddenly. "Before the mix-up, I mean." Elena shook her head. "No. The embryo transfer would have been a single embryo that split after implantation. That's why you and Theo are identical despite being from IVF." Oliver considered this with the serious concentration that characterized him. "So, in a way, we're a miracle twice over. First that the embryo worked at all, and second that it became twins." Elena's eyes filled with tears at his perspective. "That's a beautiful way to think about it. I remember the mom who raised us, she used to say we were her double blessing," Oliver continued. "I guess she was right, just not in the way she thought." The way Oliver navigated between honoring the mother he had known and exploring his connection to Elena showed a maturity beyond his years. Yet his frequent glances toward Theo revealed his concern about their different reactions. Dr. Chen eventually excused herself, promising to return the following day to discuss the medical aspects in more detail. The 4 of them, Nathan, Elena, and the twins, were left to continue processing together. As evening approached, Nathan ordered dinner to be brought to the private room. The simple act of sharing a meal created a semblance of normalcy amid the extraordinary circumstances. During dinner, Elena noticed Oliver wincing slightly as he reached for his water glass. "Are you in pain?" she asked with immediate concern. "Just sore from all the needles," he admitted. They had to try 3 times for the last blood draw. Without thinking, Elena moved to his side, gently examining his arm where bruising had formed around multiple injection sites. "They should have used a smaller gauge needle," she murmured, her touch instinctively maternal. Oliver didn't pull away from her touch. Instead, he asked, "How do you know about needles?" "I learned a lot about medical procedures during my fertility treatments," Elena explained. "And later, working at the hospital, I observed how the best nurses minimized patient discomfort." From his place at the table, Theo watched this interaction with complex emotions playing across his face: jealousy, curiosity, and lingering anger battling for dominance. "This doesn't change anything between us, right?" he finally asked Oliver, his voice uncharacteristically vulnerable. "You're still my brother?" "Of course I am," Oliver responded immediately. "We're still twins. We're still us." The simple exchange seemed to release some of the tension in the room. Regardless of how each of them was processing the revelation, the bond between the twins remained unshaken, perhaps the one constant they could all rely on. Later, as Nathan prepared to take Theo back to the estate while Elena stayed overnight with Oliver, he found himself alone with Elena for a moment. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Elena's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. "I don't know what I'm supposed to feel," she confessed. Joy at finding my children? Grief for all the years lost? Guilt for disrupting their understanding of themselves? I'm experiencing everything at once. "There's no right way to handle this," Nathan assured her. "We're all navigating uncharted territory." "Theo hates me," Elena whispered, the pain evident in her voice. "He doesn't hate you. He's protecting himself from another potential loss," Nathan corrected gently. "He's lost 2 parents already. Accepting you as his biological mother means redefining his entire understanding of family, and that's frightening for him." Elena nodded, drawing strength from Nathan's steady presence. "What about you? How are you processing all this?" Nathan considered the question carefully. "I've spent my life building systems, creating order from chaos. But this situation defies logical solutions. These boys have been my responsibility, my family, for 8 years. The DNA results don't change how I feel about them." "And how is that?" Elena asked. "Like they're my sons," Nathan admitted, surprising himself with the realization. "Somewhere along the way between my diagnosis and now, they've become more than just my sister's children. They've become mine in a way I never anticipated."
This moment of truth, when families discover that love transcends biology and identity runs deeper than DNA, reminds us all what truly matters in life. If you're finding meaning in this extraordinary journey of Nathan, Elena, and the twins, take a moment right now to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. At Mr. Ross Story Trail, we believe these profound human stories touch something essential in all of us: the need for connection, for belonging, for family in whatever form it takes. In our next installment, you'll witness how these 4 individuals begin to rebuild their understanding of family from the foundation up, leading to an unexpected miracle that none of them could have anticipated. Subscribe now so you won't miss the powerful conclusion to this remarkable true story about how sometimes the most beautiful families are the ones we create through love, choice, and the courage to embrace unexpected truths. The week following Oliver's release from the hospital brought a delicate new reality to the Reed estate. The physical space remained unchanged, the same rooms, the same carefully maintained gardens, but the emotional landscape had transformed completely. Oliver, naturally reflective, processed the revelation about his biological parentage through quiet observation. He began studying old photographs of the parents who had raised him, searching for similarities he might have missed before. Finding none, he started asking Elena careful questions about her family background. "Did anyone in your family have my interest in astronomy?" he asked one evening as they sat on the patio. "My father," Elena answered, treasuring these moments of connection. "He built a small observatory in our backyard when I was little. We spent countless nights mapping constellations together." Oliver considered this information with thoughtful seriousness. "So that part of me comes from him, my grandfather." "It seems so," Elena agreed gently. "Would you like to see pictures of him sometime?" Oliver nodded, a new piece of his identity clicking into place. Theo's adjustment proved more turbulent. His protective instincts toward Oliver remained fierce, but he retreated from both adults, spending hours alone in his room or running punishing laps around the estate grounds until exhaustion set in. When Nathan attempted to discuss his feelings, Theo's response was cutting. "Everyone keeps asking how I feel, but nobody actually wants the truth," he said during one attempted conversation. "The truth is, I'm angry. The parents I remember, the ones I've missed every day for 8 years, weren't really mine. And now I'm supposed to accept that our housekeeper is actually our mother? It's like being in some bizarre science fiction story." Rather than pushing, Nathan simply sat
with him in silence, offering presence without pressure. The twins' relationship with each other provided their greatest stability. Late at night, they would talk for hours in whispered conversations, processing together what they couldn't express to the adults. "Do you think we should call her Mom?" Oliver asked Theo during one such midnight discussion. "No," Theo replied immediately. "She didn't raise us. Just because her DNA matches ours doesn't make her our mother." "But she would have raised us if she'd known," Oliver pointed out. "It wasn't her fault." "It wasn't anyone's fault," Theo acknowledged. "But that doesn't change what happened. We had parents. They died. Uncle Nathan is our guardian. That's our reality. But now there's Elena too, Oliver persisted, and she's part of our reality now. Theo was quiet for a long moment. I'm not ready, he finally admitted, his voice smaller than Oliver had heard it in years. If I let her be important to me, and then she leaves too. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. For Elena, each day brought a whirlwind of contradictory emotions. Joy at discovering her biological children were alive, warred with grief for the 12 years she'd lost. Wonder at seeing herself reflected in the twins' features competed with uncertainty about her place in their lives. She maintained her role as housekeeper, finding comfort in the familiar routines of maintaining the estate. But now, every action carried new significance. Preparing the twins' favorite meals, laundering their clothes, attending to the small details of their daily lives became acts of long-delayed mothering. One afternoon, while folding Theo's laundry, Elena discovered a worn photograph hidden in his pocket, a family portrait of the twins as toddlers with the parents who had raised them. The simple evidence of his grief brought tears to her eyes. When Nathan found her sitting on the laundry room floor, photograph in hand, she couldn't hide her emotions. I feel like I'm competing with ghosts, she confessed. Your sister and her husband gave them everything I couldn't, a childhood full of love and security. How can I ever measure up to that? You're not meant to replace them, Nathan said gently. No one expects that, least of all the boys. Then what am I to them? Elena asked, the question that had been haunting her. Not quite their mother, not simply the housekeeper anymore. I'm in this impossible in-between space. You're Elena, Nathan replied simply. The woman who cares deeply for them, who connects with them in ways uniquely your own. Given time, your relationship will define itself. Despite these reassurances, Elena struggled with the boundaries of her new reality. When Oliver developed a fever, a common occurrence with his condition, her instinct was to stay by his bedside through the night. But she hesitated, unsure if such maternal behavior would be welcomed or seen as overstepping. Go to him, Nathan encouraged when he found her pacing outside Oliver's door. He needs you, whether he fully understands why or not. That night, as she placed a cool cloth on Oliver's forehead while he slept, Elena allowed herself to fully embrace the truth. These were her sons. Regardless of how they came to be or the years lost between them, her heart recognized what her mind was still processing. She was their mother in the most fundamental sense. I would have loved you so much, she whispered to Oliver's sleeping form. I do love you so much. From the doorway, Theo watched silently, his expression unreadable, before slipping away unnoticed. As May turned to June, Nathan's condition deteriorated despite the aggressive treatment protocol. The promising response Dr. Patel had initially observed plateaued, then began to reverse. Blood tests revealed the cancer cells multiplying again, adapting to the medications that had temporarily held them at bay. We need to consider more aggressive options, Dr. Patel advised during a private consultation. The experimental treatment isn't providing sustained results. Nathan, now thin and frequently exhausted, considered his options with the same analytical precision he applied to business decisions. What's the projected success rate of the alternatives? Dr. Patel's expression conveyed what her words carefully avoided. At this stage, we're talking about extending time rather than curative measures. How much time? 3 months. Perhaps 4 with optimal response. Nathan absorbed this information stoically. His primary concern was no longer his own survival, but ensuring the twins' security after his death. The revelation about their biological parentage had unexpectedly provided a solution to the question that had haunted him since his diagnosis. Who would care for the boys when he was gone? Elena was their mother, not just legally, which his lawyers were expediting through the courts based on the DNA evidence, but in the growing bond he witnessed daily between her and the boys. Oliver had embraced the connection openly, while Theo's resistance was gradually softening into cautious acceptance. What Nathan hadn't anticipated was how his own feelings for Elena would evolve alongside these developments. What had begun as appreciation for her competence had deepened into profound respect for her strength, compassion, and dignity in an impossible situation. Somewhere amid hospital visits and late-night conversations about the twins, respect had transformed into something more complex, a connection he'd never experienced before. On a rare good day when energy returned temporarily, Nathan found Elena in the garden, creating a telescope setup for Oliver's evening stargazing. You've transformed this place, he observed, gesturing not just to the physical changes to the estate, but to the emotional atmosphere as well. Elena looked up, surprise evident on her face. I've hardly done anything remarkable. You've created a home, Nathan contradicted. Before you arrived, this was just a house, expensive and empty. You filled it with warmth. A flush colored Elena's cheeks at the unexpected praise. I've simply done what needed doing. That's precisely what makes it remarkable, Nathan replied. You've faced an impossible situation with grace and courage. The boys are fortunate to have you in their lives. Elena studied his face, noting the weight loss and pallor that signaled his declining health. They need you too, Nathan. You've become the father figure they've been missing. A role with an expiration date, he said quietly, acknowledging what they both knew. My legal team is finalizing your parental rights. The boys will remain with you after I'm gone. Don't talk that way, Elena protested. The doctors might still find a treatment that works. Nathan shook his head slightly. I'm a realist, Elena. Always have been. It's why I've been successful in business and terrible at personal relationships. I wouldn't say terrible, Elena countered with a small smile. You're doing pretty well with the twins now. Too little, too late, Nathan replied with regret. But perhaps that's the ultimate lesson in all this, recognizing what truly matters before it's completely beyond reach. His gaze held hers with unexpected intensity, communicating feelings neither had voiced aloud. In the quiet garden, surrounded by the home they had built together for the boys, something shifted between them, an acknowledgement of connection that transcended their unusual circumstances. The twins observed more than the adults realized. From their perspective, the evolving relationship between Nathan and Elena was plainly evident, if unacknowledged by either party. They look at each other when they think no one's watching, Oliver pointed out to Theo as they completed homework at the kitchen table, Nathan and Elena visible through the window as they walked the garden path. So? Theo responded, though his tone lacked its former defensiveness when discussing Elena. So they care about each other, Oliver persisted. Maybe even love each other. Theo considered this, watching the adults through the window. What's your point? Uncle Nathan is getting worse, Oliver said quietly. You know he is. We all pretend not to notice, but the treatments aren't working anymore. Theo's pencil stilled on his paper. Despite his initial anger about their biological discovery, he had grown increasingly concerned about Nathan's deteriorating condition. What are you suggesting? They should get married, Oliver stated simply, before it's too late. Married? Theo repeated incredulously. That's crazy. They barely know each other. They know each other better than most people who date for years, Oliver countered. They've been through this whole situation together. And haven't you noticed how she makes him laugh? When was the last time Uncle Nathan laughed before Elena came? Theo couldn't argue with this observation. The change in their formerly distant, work-obsessed uncle had been dramatic, extending beyond his physical illness to a fundamental shift in priorities and emotional openness. Besides, Oliver continued, if they got married, we could be a real family. All of us together for whatever time Uncle Nathan has left. The simplicity of this logic, so characteristic of Oliver's perspective, struck Theo with unexpected force. Despite his ongoing struggle to accept Elena as their biological mother, he had grudgingly come to respect her unwavering support during Oliver's illness and her patience with his own difficult behavior. That evening, during a quiet family dinner, a routine now firmly established, the twins exchanged meaningful glances until Oliver nodded slightly, giving Theo the signal to speak. We've been thinking, Theo began, uncharacteristic nervousness in his voice, about our situation, about all of us. Nathan and Elena both looked up from their plates, attention captured by his serious tone. What is it? Nathan prompted when Theo hesitated. We think you should get married, Oliver blurted out before Theo could continue more tactfully. You and Elena. Before he stopped, unwilling to complete the thought aloud. Stunned silence fell over the table. Elena's fork clattered against her plate, while Nathan stared at the twins in genuine shock. That's... Elena began, her cheeks flushing deeply. A very surprising suggestion, Nathan finished for her, maintaining his composure despite his evident surprise. Why is it surprising? Oliver asked, with the straightforward logic of a 12-year-old. You care about each other. We can tell. And this way, we could be a real family for whatever time we have left together. The raw honesty of this statement, acknowledging Nathan's declining health while offering a solution that addressed the twins' desire for family stability, left both adults momentarily speechless. Boys, Nathan finally managed. Marriage is a decision for adults to make. It's complicated. Life is complicated, Theo countered, finding his voice. That hasn't stopped any of the other crazy things that have happened to us. Elena and Nathan exchanged a glance, neither quite ready to address the feelings that had indeed been growing between them, especially not under the twins' perceptive scrutiny. We appreciate your concern for our happiness, Elena said carefully, but this isn't something that should be decided hastily. There's nothing hasty about it, Oliver insisted. You're already our biological mother. Uncle Nathan has been like our father since our parents died. It makes perfect sense. The twins' perspective, simultaneously simplistic and profound, hung in the air between them, a possibility neither adult had allowed themselves to consider amid the more pressing concerns of Oliver's health and the twins' adjustment to their new identity. Later that night, Nathan found Elena in her usual spot in the garden, gazing at the stars that had become a source of connection with Oliver. Well, he said with a small smile as he joined her. That was unexpected. To say the least, Elena agreed, unable to meet his eyes. They see more than we give them credit for, Nathan observed. Children usually do, Elena replied softly. They cut straight to the heart of things while adults circle around what matters most. The unspoken question between them, whether the twins had indeed identified something real in their observation, remained unanswered as they sat together under the vast night sky. Two people who had found each other through extraordinary circumstances, connected by children who belonged to both of them in different ways. July arrived with a heat wave that blanketed Boston in sweltering humidity. Despite the summer vacation, the twins remained close to home, their attention divided between Oliver's ongoing treatment and Nathan's visibly declining health. On the morning of July 7th, Nathan emerged from his bedroom later than usual. The family had settled into a comfortable routine of breakfast together, a time when even Theo's resistance to their new family dynamic softened in the warmth of shared meals and casual conversation. "Morning," Nathan greeted them, his voice notably weaker than the previous day. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his complexion had taken on an alarming grayish tint. Elena immediately rose from her seat. "Nathan, you should be resting." "I've rested enough," he replied with a dismissive wave that lacked his usual confidence. "There's a board meeting I need to attend virtually at 9. Oliver studied him with concern. "You look really tired, Uncle Nathan." "Just didn't sleep well," Nathan assured him, lowering himself carefully into his chair. "Nothing some coffee won't fix." Elena placed a cup before him, adding, "And perhaps a call to Dr. Patel." Nathan's fingers trembled visibly as he reached for the cup. "The appointment is tomorrow. No need to—" The sentence remained unfinished as the cup slipped from his grasp, coffee spilling across the table. Nathan's eyes rolled back, and before anyone could react, he slumped forward. "Nathan!" Elena cried, rushing to his side. Theo, displaying an unexpected presence of mind, was already dialing emergency services on his phone. "My uncle collapsed," he explained calmly to the dispatcher. "He has leukemia. He's unconscious but breathing." Oliver stood frozen, watching Elena gently lower Nathan to the floor, cradling his head in her lap. "Is he dying?" he whispered. "No," Elena said firmly, though fear betrayed itself in her trembling hands as she checked Nathan's pulse. "Help is coming. He's going to be fine." The next hours passed in a blur of ambulance sirens, emergency room chaos, and the sterile waiting area that had become all too familiar to their newly formed family. Dr. Patel arrived within an hour of Nathan's admission, her expression grave as she approached Elena and the twins. "Nathan's condition has accelerated more rapidly than we anticipated," she explained gently. "His white blood cell count is dangerously high, and he's developed an infection his body is struggling to fight." "What does that mean?" Theo demanded, his protective instincts now extending to Nathan as well as his brother. Dr. Patel's compassionate gaze took in both boys. "It means he's very ill. We're administering powerful antibiotics and supportive care, but the next 48 hours will be critical. Can we see him?" Oliver asked quietly. Briefly, Dr. Patel agreed. "He's stabilized for now, though he's heavily sedated." The ICU room where Nathan lay connected to various monitors and IV lines bore little resemblance to his powerful presence in the boardroom, or even his diminished but dignified bearing at home. Pale and still, he seemed to have aged a decade overnight. Elena hung back, allowing the twins their moment with the man who had become so central to their lives. Oliver approached the bed first, carefully taking Nathan's hand in his own. "We're here, Uncle Nathan," he said simply. "All of us." Theo stood at the foot of the bed, his expression unreadable, hands gripping the rails so tightly his knuckles whitened. "You have to fight," he finally said, his voice breaking slightly. "You don't get to leave us too." Later in the waiting room, Elena contacted Nathan's executive team while the twins huddled together on uncomfortable plastic chairs. James Chen and Margaret Wang arrived within hours, bringing Nathan's advance directives and necessary legal documentation. "These are the papers establishing Elena as the twins' legal guardian in the event of—" James began, unable to complete the sentence in front of the boys. "In the event Nathan is incapacitated," Margaret finished diplomatically. "Everything's in order." The DNA confirmation expedited the process considerably. Elena accepted the documents with a hollow feeling. Though she had known this moment might come, the reality of potentially losing Nathan hit her with unexpected force. Beyond his role as the twins' guardian, beyond their unusual circumstances, he had become essential to her in ways she was only now beginning to fully recognize. For 3 days, they maintained a vigil at the hospital. Elena only left Nathan's side when forced by hospital regulations, while the twins alternated between sitting with him and camping in the waiting area with books and electronic devices brought by Nathan's staff. On the morning of the 4th day, Dr. Patel requested a private meeting with Elena. We need to discuss Nathan's prognosis and next steps, she explained, leading Elena to a small consultation room. Elena steeled herself for the worst, remembering Nathan's earlier conversation about having only months remaining. Now it seemed even that limited timeline might be optimistic. Dr. Patel opened a laptop, displaying Nathan's latest test results. We've been monitoring Nathan's response to the emergency treatment protocol. And? Elena prompted when the doctor paused. And we're seeing something unusual, Dr. Patel continued, her professional composure giving way to genuine puzzlement. His white blood cell count has dropped dramatically, but not in the way we typically see with treatment failure. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Patel said slowly, that we're seeing markers consistent with the early stages of remission. Elena stared at Dr. Patel, certain she had misheard. Remission? But you said his treatment had stopped working. It had, Dr. Patel confirmed. The standard protocol and the experimental treatment both showed diminishing returns. But something has changed. She displayed a series of charts on her laptop. These are Nathan's blood work results over the past 3 months, showing the steady progression of his disease despite treatment. And these, she continued, pointing to the newest readings, are his current results, showing a significant reduction in cancer cells and increasing normal blood cell production. How is this possible? Elena asked, afraid to embrace hope after preparing for the worst. Honestly, we're not entirely sure, Dr. Patel admitted. Sometimes the body responds to crises in unexpected ways. The massive infection might have triggered an enhanced immune response that's now recognizing and attacking the cancer cells. Or the emergency protocol we implemented might have created a synergistic effect with his previous treatments. Are you saying he might recover? Dr. Patel's expression remained cautiously optimistic. I'm saying we're seeing promising indicators that weren't present before. We need to continue monitoring and testing, but if this trend continues, Nathan's prognosis could be significantly better than we previously thought. Elena pressed her hand to her mouth, emotions overwhelming her. When can we tell him? When can I tell the boys? Nathan is showing signs of regaining consciousness, Dr. Patel replied. Once he's stable enough for conversation, we'll discuss these developments with him. As for the twins, I'd suggest waiting until we have more definitive confirmation. We don't want to raise hopes prematurely. When Elena returned to the waiting area, the twins immediately sensed something had changed. What did the doctors say? Theo demanded, his defensive manner returning in the face of potential bad news. Elena carefully moderated her response, following Dr. Patel's guidance. They're seeing some unexpected changes in Uncle Nathan's condition. They need to run more tests. Good changes or bad changes? Oliver asked perceptively. Potentially good, Elena acknowledged, unwilling to lie directly. But it's too early to know for sure. That afternoon, Nathan opened his eyes for the first time since his collapse. Finding Elena beside his bed, he attempted to speak, his voice a dry whisper. The boys? He managed. They're fine, Elena assured him, offering water through a straw. They've been here every day, worried about you. Nathan took a moment to process his surroundings. The hospital room, the monitors, the IV lines. How bad? Elena hesitated, uncertain how much to reveal about Dr. Patel's surprising news. You developed an infection. Your body is fighting back, Nathan repeated weakly. Good choice of words. Before Elena could respond, Dr. Patel entered, pleased to find her patient conscious. After checking his vitals and responses, she shared the unexpected development directly. Nathan, your latest blood work shows something we didn't anticipate. The cancer cells are decreasing rapidly. Nathan's gaze sharpened, his analytical mind cutting through the fog of medication. Meaning we're seeing early indicators of possible remission, Dr. Patel explained, using the same chart she'd shown Elena. It's still preliminary, but the trend is unmistakable. Nathan absorbed this information with the same methodical focus he applied to complex business problems. What's the explanation? We have several theories, Dr. Patel admitted. The most promising involves your experimental treatment creating a delayed immune response that was activated during the infection crisis. Essentially, your body may have finally recognized the cancer cells as foreign and mounted an effective defense. Probability of continued improvement? Nathan asked, ever the statistician. If the current trend continues for another 2 weeks, I'd place the chances of significant extended remission at approximately 60%, Dr. Patel replied. Higher than anything we've seen previously in your case. For the first time since his diagnosis, genuine hope flickered in Nathan's expression. The twins should hear this, he said, looking at Elena. Together, all of us. The moment the twins entered Nathan's hospital room and saw him sitting up, alert and engaged in conversation with Dr. Patel, their expressions transformed from guarded anxiety to cautious relief. Uncle Nathan, Oliver exclaimed, rushing to his bedside. Theo followed more slowly, his skeptical nature requiring more convincing. You look better? I feel better, Nathan confirmed, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. Dr. Patel has some news to share with all of us. As the doctor explained the unexpected development in Nathan's condition, using simplified terms for the twins' benefit, their reactions mirrored their personalities. Oliver immediately embraced the positive possibility, his face lighting up with unrestrained hope. Theo listened intently, asking pointed questions about probability and potential setbacks, needing to protect himself from disappointment. So you're not going to, Oliver began, unable to voice the fear that had haunted him. Not anytime soon, it appears, Nathan replied gently, though Dr. Patel is careful to remind me that we need more time and data to be certain. But it's good news, Elena clarified, allowing her own relief to show fully for the first time. The best news we could have hoped for. In the days that followed, Nathan's improvement continued at a rate that surprised even his medical team. His strength gradually returned, and the markers in his blood work consistently moved in a positive direction. By the end of July, Dr. Patel officially confirmed what they had begun to believe possible. Nathan had entered remission. This doesn't mean the cancer is cured, she cautioned during a follow-up appointment. But it does mean we've achieved significant control over the disease. With continued monitoring and maintenance therapy, you could have years of good health ahead of you. Years, not months. The difference was monumental. As August approached, Nathan was discharged from the hospital with a carefully calibrated medication regimen and instructions for regular monitoring. His return to the estate marked a new beginning for the unconventional family that had formed there. On his first evening home, they gathered on the patio to enjoy the summer sunset. Nathan reclining on a chaise lounge, Elena beside him, the twins sprawled in nearby chairs. So what happens now? Theo asked, the question encompassing far more than Nathan's medical status. Now, Nathan replied thoughtfully, we have something we didn't have before, time. Time for what? Oliver wondered. Nathan's gaze moved from the twins to Elena, lingering there with unspoken meaning. Time to figure out what kind of family we want to be. Time to make decisions without the pressure of imminent loss. Does that mean you'll consider our suggestion? Oliver asked boldly, referencing their marriage proposal that had been overshadowed by Nathan's health crisis. Elena flushed deeply, but Nathan merely smiled. It means all possibilities remain open, and that's something worth celebrating. As twilight deepened around them, the four individuals linked by extraordinary circumstances sat together in comfortable silence. The future that had seemed so brutally limited now stretched before them, filled with potential and second chances, an unexpected miracle that had transformed not just Nathan's prognosis, but the prospects for all of them as a family. In the garden where they had first begun to connect, under the stars that Oliver loved to observe, they shared a moment of perfect contentment, not knowing exactly what shape their future would take, but certain they would face it together. December brought snow to Boston, transforming the Reed Estate grounds into a winter wonderland. Inside, the house itself had undergone an equally dramatic transformation, no longer the sterile showcase of wealth it had once been, but a genuine home filled with photographs, children's artwork, and the comfortable clutter of family life. In the spacious kitchen, now the heart of the household, Elena orchestrated the chaos of holiday cookie baking, while Christmas music played softly in the background. Oliver carefully measured ingredients with scientific precision, while Theo enthusiastically handled the mixer, sending occasional puffs of flour into the air. Easy on the speed control, Elena laughed, wiping a smudge of flour from Theo's cheek, a casual touch he now accepted without stiffening. More is better, Theo argued with a grin that had become increasingly frequent over the past months. Nathan entered from his home office, his healthy color and restored energy a constant reminder of the miracle they'd witnessed. Something smells fantastic in here. Gingerbread, Oliver reported, for the company holiday party tomorrow. Speaking of which, Nathan said, checking his watch, the board meeting ends at 5, so I'll be home for dinner. This simple statement, the promise of a business executive to prioritize family dinner, represented perhaps the most profound change in their household. Nathan's brush with mortality and unexpected second chance had permanently shifted his priorities. The company still thrived under his leadership, but now he delegated more, worked remotely when possible, and never missed important family moments. We'll set a place for you, Elena promised. Their eyes met across the kitchen island, communicating in the silent language they had developed. Though they hadn't rushed into the marriage the twins had impulsively suggested, their relationship had evolved into something deeply meaningful. Nathan had formally moved Elena from the staff quarters to the master's suite 3 months earlier, their commitment to building a life together now openly acknowledged. The legal transformation of their family had proceeded alongside the emotional one. Elena's parental rights had been fully established through the courts, with Nathan retaining his role as the twins' legal guardian, creating, in essence, shared custody. The unusual arrangement reflected their unique circumstances, a family created not through traditional means but through extraordinary events and conscious choice. As the twins carried the cookie sheets to the oven, Nathan moved to Elena's side, his hand finding hers naturally. "Happy?" he asked quietly. Elena's gaze took in the scene, the boys bickering good-naturedly over oven temperature, the home decorated for their first Christmas together, the man beside her who had survived against all odds. "Beyond anything I could have imagined," she answered honestly. The transformation extended far beyond their living arrangements. Each member of this unconventional family had evolved profoundly through their shared journey. Nathan, once defined entirely by his corporate success, had discovered parts of himself long buried beneath ambition and isolation. The executive who had sent his nephews away to boarding school now coached Theo's debate team and never missed Oliver's astronomy club presentations. His remission continued to hold steady, with each clear scan reinforcing their cautious optimism. "The company will survive without me for a weekend," he had announced recently, surprising everyone by suggesting a family ski trip. Some things matter more than quarterly projections. Elena's evolution had been equally remarkable. The woman who had arrived desperate for employment, grieving her lost fertility, now mothered her biological children with quiet confidence. She had maintained certain aspects of caring for the household, not out of obligation, but because creating a nurturing home environment gave her genuine satisfaction. Alongside these traditional roles, she had begun consulting part-time with a patient advocacy organization, using her experiences to help other families navigate medical crises. "I never expected to find my children," she had confided to Nathan one evening, "but I also never expected to find myself." Oliver, his health now stabilized through ongoing treatment, and Theo's donated bone marrow, had blossomed from a quiet, sickly child into a thoughtful young adolescent with passionate interests. His bedroom had become a shrine to astronomy, with a professional-grade telescope positioned permanently at his window, a gift from Nathan to celebrate 6 months of stable health. Most remarkably, Oliver had started a support group for children with rare blood disorders, using his experience to help others. "If something good can come from everything we went through," he had explained with wisdom beyond his years, "then it wasn't just about us." Perhaps the most profound transformation had occurred in Theo, whose angry resistance to change had gradually given way to acceptance and eventually embrace of their new family structure. The defensive wall he had maintained since losing his parents had slowly lowered as trust replaced fear. The turning point had come during Oliver's bone marrow transplant, a procedure Theo had undergone without hesitation to help his twin. During recovery, he had finally called Elena Mom for the first time, the term emerging naturally in a moment of vulnerability. "I thought it would feel like betraying our first mom," he had explained later, when Elena, overwhelmed by emotion, asked about the change. "But then I realized she would want us to be happy, to be loved. We can have both, memories of her and a life with you." As winter twilight descended over the snow-covered estate, the family gathered in the living room. Oliver and Theo sprawled on the floor playing chess, while Nathan and Elena shared the couch, reviewing plans for the holiday charity event they were hosting. "Remember when we first came here?" Oliver asked suddenly, looking up from the chessboard. "After boarding school? How could I forget?" Nathan replied. "I was terrified of doing everything wrong." "You did do everything wrong," Theo pointed out with his newfound ability to tease. "You hardly spoke to us for the first week." "And now you never stop talking," Elena laughed, ruffling his hair as she passed. The ease between them, the natural flow of conversation, the casual affection, the shared memories both painful and joyful, testified to the family they had become. Not through blood alone, though that connection existed between some of them, but through the stronger bonds of choice, forgiveness, and love. "I was thinking," Nathan said, setting aside his tablet, "about what we've learned through all of this." "Do hospitals have terrible food?" Theo suggested. "Do DNA tests change your life overnight?" Oliver added more seriously. "Those, too," Nathan acknowledged with a smile. "But mainly that family isn't defined by biology or legal documents. It's created through showing up for each other day after day, through the hardest moments and the ordinary ones." Elena nodded, continuing his thought. "And those second chances come in the most unexpected forms. My second chance at motherhood, Nathan's second chance at life. All of us are getting a second chance at family. The greatest gift isn't found in what we're given," Nathan reflected, "but in what we choose to build together from whatever circumstances life presents us." As this extraordinary journey comes to a close, we've witnessed how 4 individuals, connected first by chance, then by choice, transformed from strangers into a family bound by love that transcends conventional definitions. If this story of healing, second chances, and the true meaning of family has touched your heart, take a moment now to subscribe to Mr. Ross Story Trail. Your subscription supports more powerful narratives that explore the depth of human connection and resilience. When Nathan Reed received his diagnosis, he thought he was preparing for the end. Instead, he was actually beginning the most meaningful chapter of his life, finding his true family not through business success but through vulnerability, openness, and love. Elena Voss arrived at the Reed estate believing her dreams of motherhood were forever lost, only to discover her children had been in the world all along, waiting for her to find them. Her journey reminds us that hope persists even when we believe all possibilities have been exhausted. And the twins, Oliver and Theo, learned that identity isn't limited to biology or birth certificates but is continually shaped by relationships and choices. Their story teaches us that family can be both inherited and created, sometimes simultaneously. As Nathan told the boys on a snowy evening 6 months after his miraculous recovery, life rarely follows the path we expect. Its greatest gifts often arrive disguised as its greatest challenges. Our job isn't to control the journey but to recognize the treasure when it appears. Subscribe now and join our community of storytellers and listeners who believe in the power of narrative to illuminate life's most profound truths. Because sometimes, the most beautiful family stories aren't the ones we're born into, but the ones we create together, one choice at a time.